Let's see if we can't go find Ava. Oh, I see her. I don't know if the camera can pick her up yet. She's under the tree. Oh, there she goes. Come here. Yeah, joyous, joyous. Okay, come on. Hey folks, it's Phoebe with Shrub Step Blooms. We're just out here taking a foggy, frosty walk this morning, seeing what's what, and enjoying a little bit of bird sounds and that kind of thing. So it's a pretty chill morning. I think I mentioned in the last video, I don't have a lot of terribly interesting projects to work on through the winter. It's a lot of, oh, check this out. It's a lot more of like administrative stuff on the computer, which doesn't make for great media content. So a lot of this is just wandering around. I have plenty of weeds to pull, and I worked on that yesterday, but these straw flowers are still looking pretty nice, all things considered, since it's we're about a week away from December here. And it actually snowed lightly one day. But I absolutely adore the fog. It's really nostalgic for me, and it makes the world a little quieter, I think, which I really appreciate. So it can be a bit much sometimes. This is Dusty Miller. I'm hoping it will overwinter, and then I'll probably have to transplant it because my plan for this row, I think next year, is melons. And I don't really want this here if I'm growing melons. The status was looking great until very recently, and there's even some that still looks good. If anybody knows of a really pale, creamy yellow colored status that's commercially available to a small grower, I would really appreciate any tips you have, because you can see on here where I stripped off all the seed heads because I'm trying to save this one random plant that turned out to be the color I want. I really love it. It works really well with a lot of the other colors that I use. It's really versatile, but it's like a creamy, the camera's not doing it justice. Maybe it's because of the color of my hands. Let's see if I pull my hands away if it'll pick it up better. It's just this light creamy yellow color, and I want 50 plants of it. Not really, but I want seeds for it. So if anybody knows, I would love some tips on that. Anyway, the rest of the status patch is starting to look pretty rough, just like the other flowers in the garden that are no longer alive. They're a fairly cool hardy plant, but I think we've reached the point where they're not gonna do much anymore, which is not terribly surprising, given, again, that it's almost December. I'm really curious. These are stock plants that I planted this spring, and they didn't really do much. The conditions in our spring typically get too warm too fast for stock, I think, and I'm gonna keep experimenting with it a little bit, but we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I'm curious if this will survive the winter and bloom, because I know some people overwinter stock, but I don't have any cover for it or anything like that, so it's a little bit of a survive or die situation out here, because I'm not interested in pampering stuff terribly much. But some of it you can see is like, it almost made it to blooming in the fall. So whatever. Ooh, look at this one. Yeah. This one has been just going along. I think I shared it close to a month ago now. And I really wanted to pick it and bring it inside, but I thought it would be a great experiment to see how long it lasted in the field. And it's been doing really well. You can see the bottom flowers on the spike are pretty beat up and done, but at the top, it's just blooming. So I'm pretty sure this was a quartet series variety. I don't remember all the different colors I bought, but it's making me happy every time I come out here and look at it. And then we've got the snapdragons, which I think are actually finally done. I have big promises to myself next year about things that I'm gonna net, or at least to support on the sides so they don't go all floppy. Snapdragons is at the top of that list because I plan to have a full 40-foot or 50-foot row next year. in that section of the garden, and that section has wider rows. There's Ava, she's doing some excavation. Let's see the damage. At least it's in a spot that I'd already weeded, so it doesn't matter that much. Yep, there's a helenium plant down there, which is also, this is what it looks like if it's not cut down right now. And they're pretty statuesque. I didn't expect them to get so massive, but they're great. These were the ones that were that like little yellow daisy type flower, and if you pull one of these off, you can collect all the seeds, which I already have a bag of inside. And much to my amusement, the artichokes I planted this year did nothing. I thought they all died. I don't know why, but they all kind of perked back up this fall. So I don't remember, they're either green globe or Tavor, something like that. I've never had artichokes survive the winter here, and I'm not trying to make them survive the winter. I just think it's kind of funny that they are showing up again, because there's another one down in there, there's another one right there, there's another one down there. So I don't know what, the conditions were right, I guess, and they were getting in a flight again, maybe. But that's fairly intriguing. And then otherwise, it's just a big mess out here, but that's fine. I've started to pull out some of the kind of overstory things that weren't intended to be planted. So in this section, this will all be yarrow next year, and you can kind of see, here, let's find a better example. There's seed heads that I've left standing for the birds and structure and whatnot. But I've been pulling out all the marigolds and things that I don't want dropping seeds, any more seeds at least, to try to keep it as mostly yarrow next year. That would be great. There's also volunteer like broccoli down here. Didn't really do anything. Some of it just went straight to blooming. And then this is my patch of terracotta yarrow that I'm really looking forward to spreading over time. So if you don't know, yarrow spreads rhizomatous underground, which is great because then it kind of propagates itself. But look how beautiful that is. This is one of the spots Ava gets in trouble quite routinely for digging, so there must be something good in there. Yep. She's supposed to be a bird dog, but she is mostly convinced she's like a rat dog, a little rodent dog. Which if I was a gopher, I wouldn't want to see 80 pounds of her coming for me, that's for sure. I also don't want to see 80 pounds of her coming for my garden. You know, it's less than desirable when she digs big holes. Hey, ma'am. Yeah, at one point she knew the command, stay in the path. And now she pretends she doesn't. I know she knows what I mean, but she acts like she doesn't. And that's a story of Ava. Come on. Yeah, you, come on. See, she mostly does what she's asked. Oh, look at this big tumbleweed pile. How lovely. One more thing. Okay. One more thing to figure out later. Look how big it is. So in this tumbleweeds, there's 3 species. This one over here, mind the cabbage, sorry, is kochia. I was horrified to find that some people still sell it, even though it's a well-known invasive species. You can't get it into Washington. I think it's on the quarantine list. That is tumbleweed, which is Russian tumbleweed. It's not native to the West, despite it being like an iconic thing of the West. And a thing that you might not notice if you've only ever seen it in movies is it's covered in these horrendous little pokey spikes, and they hurt. And then our 3rd species over here is tumble mustard, which of the 3, I mind the least, but it is obnoxious. It grows as a basal rosette, and then in the spring it bolts up, puts on flowers, and in the fall breaks off at the bottom, as do these others, and then spins around. And this is a wind dispersed seed mechanism to be a tumbleweed. Fun fact for you. So 3 species all in a row, and they swept in and got caught up on the sunflower stalks during our wind events. But there's some invasive species for you to keep an eye out for in your locale if they are not native to your region. They really thrive in open areas, so we did them a favor by opening this up, and you could actually see over there. a pile of tumbleweeds my husband pulled this spring. There's another pile right there. There's another pile right there. There's another pile right there, because he was trying to keep them from going to seed in this bare area. I have big plans actually next year for this bare area. I want to try doing sort of a semi-dry land, like Three Sisters crop sort of thing. So I have a plotted out plan for up there, where I'm going to do a type of dry corn, a type of dry beans that are pole beans, and then hopefully some winter squash kind of in between. And then the same idea down here, but a smaller plot, because there's a smaller area that's exposed. And I do think I'll need to water them, but maybe half to a third as much as I water in here, just to see what they do. Because I'm really curious what we can do with low water in our environment, and see what I can turn up food-wise in that way. And then up here, I think my winter squash are going to be butternuts and maybe one kind of kabocha. And then down here, I was thinking of doing pumpkins. We do also have issues with squash bugs here, so part of the idea of doing mostly butternuts up here is they're supposed to be more resistant. And in my growing, I think that's been true for my area at least. And then down there, if there's pumpkins and they don't make it, oh well. But yeah, lots of big plans for next year. Really enjoying being a little bit slower this time of year, but I do still need to get out and get stuff done, because otherwise it'll just stack up and we'll have to do it next year. One other frustrating thing has been that this spring I planted this whole section with campanula and it looks great, except the spot where it diminishes over here, because some rascally gopher needs food and has come through and eaten this whole section through here. Interestingly, skipping those in that corner kind of area, but just absolutely decimating in this section. So the bright side that I'm trying to tell myself is that now next year I have more space to plant campanula for the gopher to eat, and hopefully the snakes that I know are asleep in this garden will revive themselves happily next year and eat as many of those dang gophers as they want. But I'm hoping at least some of these survive, because they are biennial to perennial, meaning they didn't bloom this year because I just planted them. So I will expect flowers from them next year if they're not absolutely decimated by the gophers. But stay tuned, we'll see what happens next spring. And hopefully what happens is we have beautiful flowers. Oh, a cabbage just fell out of my pocket. Very typical. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to these when they actually bloom, and we'll see how many of them we actually end up with. Anyway, this is all volunteer, like arugula here, and then there's tons of fennel as well, but this is all going to get dug out hopefully, and I'm going to fill most of the rest of this bed with fall sown flowers. I did that up here and I did it far too early, but there's also this other fun stuff coming up, like free lettuce and free mustard greens that must have seeded from, that was the greens bed this spring. There's also magnificent pak choi, and I also want to point out this stuff came up and then we stopped watering because we don't have water after October 1st, and then we didn't really get rain until the last couple weeks, so that stuff was growing for 6 weeks to 2 months with no supplemental water, so that was interesting. Anyway, this is the mint that I planted in ground. Yes, I know it was a dumb idea. I am living with the consequences. Anyway, this mess is where I planted things for next year, or at least with the intent of having them next year. We'll see how many of them make it, because right down here we have Clarkia that came up because I planted the seeds too early. They're frost hardy, but they're not gonna survive our 5 to 10 degree winters. There's Ami in here, which I'm not sure about. There's Nigella that definitely came up, so we'll see how that does. But there's other things that I planted that came up, and I'm not at all concerned about them, like this chamomile. It will survive more than likely. The larkspur will more than likely survive. This cheatgrass, I have so much cheatgrass to pull. But the other funny thing is, because I planted too early, the snapdragons tried to bloom this fall, so I think I need to go through and pinch all of them back, because the chantillies in particular started putting on flower spikes, And a lot of them have, like you can see they're bolting up. But the Chantilly's are the ones that are trying to bloom. So I think I did Chantilly and Madame Butterfly and maybe some Rocket series, like a rocket mix. Because I'm trying to overwinter them to see if they'll come back in the spring. I haven't had a lot of snapdragons make it through the winter here. So this is really an experiment to see if they'll make it without, again, live or die, like survive or don't. We'll see how they do. I did put a layer of, what's this stuff called? Alfalfa down to kind of act as mulch and fertilizer. You can tell it's not going to suppress all the weeds. It's definitely not thick enough. And I definitely did it in the wrong order where I planted it and then applied it. I should have applied it and then planted through it. It would have made it a lot easier. There's one that's self-pruned in the wind. Anyway, there's also just these, now I pointed out arugula before, but look at this. This thing is so massive. That's such massive arugula. Have you ever seen that? I'm just used to it not looking that great because I think I grow it in the spring and it doesn't like it, and then I should just be growing it in the fall. It loves it. Absolutely loves it. And then we've got cabbages and whatnot over here that didn't get planted quite early enough. Ooh, check that out. That's so cool. Cabbages, or the cabbage leaves, are really water resistant, so you can find them with like beads or pools of water resting on them, and they're really sturdy so they don't like just drop off really fast. But this is holding on to water and it just froze. Oh, look, there's little droplets at the end that froze too. I'm gonna knock it off. That's so beautiful. This is part of why I love the frosty, foggy days. I had tiara type cabbages in here, which actually didn't get big enough. I need to pick. Ooh, this one has a hole. Check that out. That's a little ice. And then it's still got a bunch of, it's got like a little lake of water cupped in there. I'm gonna pick this one. I'm trying to make, okay, I can't do it with one hand. I'll come back for it. And maybe that one. I'm planning to make some fermenty stuff this week. So it'd be good to have some of our own cabbage. I think this one's almost there. I bet some of them will size up a little bit more. This is a January King type one, and it definitely needed to go on the ground sooner. But it's all an experiment. Learn as you go. But yeah, that's pretty much what I have to share today, I think. Maybe I'll add a few other things. Ooh, maybe I'll go up to the roses and check those out and see what they look like with frost on them. That'll be beautiful. But otherwise, if this is the last clip, thanks for watching. I hope you saw something you enjoyed, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Have you ever seen something so joyous? Just so full of excitement all the time. I'm happy to say I got all the mulching done on the bulbs. They're all on the ground, they're all mulched, and I even started getting cardboard down in between the roses and peonies. The idea being that there will be wood chips. I'm just gonna keep using the cabbage, y'all. There's gonna be wood chips over those so they stay moist and don't blow away. And I started dumping a little bit of fireplace ashes out here too, because we need somewhere to put them, and I figured a sparse little layer over the top probably would be okay. But let's go look at, I forget who this is. Maybe Boscobel. She's looking nice. The roses finally are pretty much toast, but there's still a few individual flowers that still look fairly nice. And I just, sorry, it's hard to do with half of a hand. I love them with the frost on them. You can see this one's dirty because we did get pounding rain on and off, which is great because we really needed it, but it means that some stuff got kind of filthy, but that's life. This is Golden Opportunity, and it really loaded up on the blooms in the fall and then wasn't able to bloom them all out once it started getting colder, but that's okay. They still look really lovely right now. I think that's about it.